Alright, Master and Margarita. Probably, for serious readers, probably #1 recommendation for book. It's on like all the top 100. You know, it's just very rarely #1, but for top 100 books, Master Margarita is pretty much in every single list. Bulgakov, written under Stalin. Manuscript was given to Stalin. Stalin was like, yo, this book is dope. This book is fire. I will never let this shit get published, ever. Bulgakov died before he finished the book. His wife finishes it. So as far as matters of balance are concerned, it's like between the masculine and the feminine. It's got like elements of what Jordan Peterson is crying about a lot of the times. You know, it's got Jesus punches Pilate. It's got Judas. It's got Mark I believe it's Mark the Levite. It's got the devil. God doesn't make an appearance in it, but it's basically about the devil's retinue comes to Moscow and starts attacking all the literary people and the theater people. You know what I mean? Bulgakov, maybe he had an axe to grind. It's quite possible. That also brings up another book that I haven't read in a very long time, Invitation to a Beheading. Russian lit, quite lit. You know, people go straight into the War and Peace. I read a lot of it, but I didn't finish it. But also, you know, very telling in there, and Dostoevsky, the idiot, stuff like this. You know, reading between the lines. They say it's better if you read it in the native Russian, but who the fuck's got time for that? You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna learn you're gonna learn Cyrillic just to for a couple books, you know what I mean? You get it on Kindle, audio book, just as good, one might imagine. Anyways, back to Master Margarita. It's got like, it's got everything. You know, it's got the theology, it's got the contemporary, you know, it's got the mythology, it's got the devil and his retinue, who are all like a cast of characters. It's like a giant cat called Behemoth that like has a gun and starts fights, and he's like friends with this gangster vampire looking dude who's like a short squat guy. Azazello, this Koroviev, my favorite character, aka Figaro, who like acts in the second half of the book. He acts as like a guide for Margarita while she's trying to navigate an opera or some shit like that. As she's navigating, there's witches and demons and magic and shit. Just like money vanishes, money appears, and the dude Warren, he's got like 2 different colored eyes, and one of them's fucked up, and he looks like a foreigner, and you know, just pretty wild stuff. Pretty humorous concepts under Soviet Russia and Soviet rule. You know, more contemporary than old school stuff. Pretty funny. Like, if you take it as it's written, it's probably funnier, or it's probably even more mystical in the native Russian. But Master is like in a nut house, and Margarita's trying to get him out, and it's just really intense. It's intense and spiritual book. It's really a good book. I read that book when I was going through it, you know, because I don't know how many times people go through it in their lifetimes, but I was going through it, and I read that book, and it was not only like enlightening, but also it was good. It was, you know, because of the mystical and whimsical aspects of the book. Whimsical, not in like a Tolkien-esque sort of way, but it's more of like akin to Harry Potter in that it's injecting the magical into the mundane, everyday lives of normal working people, and not just like trained wizards and shit, but just like regular normal ass people, and how that interjection of these two different worlds interact, and how different people cope differently. You know, even like you look at No Country for Old Men, it's like how people interact with Anton Chigurh. You know, some people handle it better than others, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Some people are kind of more prescient as to the dangers of what lurks beyond the veil, and others are just totally clueless. You know what I mean? Such is life. But yeah, Master and Margarita, definitely a must read if one is into both the esoteric and literature itself. Great imagery, even in the English translations. Wonderful imagery. They had asked at an NYU seminar or whatever. It was these gray-haired ladies that I mentioned from time to time. You know, and they were sitting there like a panel at a workshop. You know, it's like a workshop at a Barnes & Nobles. And they asked me what my favorite book was. I says, Master and Margarita. The lady I was talking to immediately like snaps her head, and then, you know, that was it, stonewall. She didn't want to hear it whatsoever. And it's like, you know, looking back on it, I didn't understand why, because I thought the book was so fantastic. But I think she probably understood why, you know. It's like you get a retinue like that rolling through town, and then the party's over for you know, whatever, because it becomes apparent that Walland was there at the behest of people, you know, from up top, to shake up literary issues. One of the famous quotes from the book is, manuscripts don't burn. You know, that kind of falls in line with the Fahrenheit 451, where the literature escapes, the book, you know, is put through nature. And Master and Margarita's manuscripts don't burn. You know, he saves the book from the fire, or just refused to burn. And I think Bulgakov had burned one of his manuscripts and wound up rewriting. He was definitely a tortured soul, tortured over you know, his struggles in life or whatever. And it definitely it comes through in the writing. And it also, Margarita's love for the master, for her husband, also shines through. So it is a love story, and it's an important one. You know, it's important in that aspect, because wouldn't necessarily say it's a hopeful ending, but it was a beautiful ending, if not melancholy. And, you know, just a beautiful writing masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. You know, I don't know how literary critics rate this shit, but anybody who can manage to get through it, you know, you get a gold star in my book, so to speak. Yeah, my ex tried to read it. She didn't get it. She didn't understand it. She didn't want to understand it. And, you know, it was a shame. It was a shame. But, you know, two people can see the world the same way. And, you know, the Bulgakov, you know, delves into perception like that. Not everything is as it seems. You know, I don't want to spoil anything, because it's definitely worth the read. And you can read the Wikipedia, and you can read, like, the short notes and stuff like that, but you're not getting the full experience. I have the exact translation at home, or the exact translation that I've read, because, I mean, it does make a difference to you know, where you're getting translated from, the words are gonna come out a little bit different. But when I read it, it was just like pure poetry. You know what I mean? Absolutely beautiful. And you know, nice thing overall. Good concepts. So if you can discuss like that book with other people who've read it, like I had a passenger, like they were from the Pac Northwest or something like that. I was speaking with her, and you know, we were talking about like the forest fires or whatever. I'm like, yeah, well, you know, forest fires happen, but they were having a big scare about the forest fires. I'm like, well, you know, foresters recommend that they you know, they start fires every once in a while in controlled ways, and then, you know, certain other folks were like, no, you just let it burn until it goes out of control, and then Hollywood burns down. You know what I mean? You have these people get rooted, or they start believing in their collective beliefs, and why people would want to go against, you know, what was conventional wisdom, that like you need the forestry to trim the trees to prevent the huge fire. Like you start the small fire every once in a while to prevent the huge fucking fire. Why people would go against that or be tested to go against that is beyond me. It's like it completely makes no sense why certain political ideologies would go like specifically out of their way to buck, you know, years of forestry practice. Like, to what end? Why? How does that make any sense? It doesn't make any sense. You know, like with the Hollywood fires, they removed funding for the forestry service, and then, you know, like, you know, the fucking insurance companies were crunching the numbers, like, what's the percentage of a fucking fire here, you know what I mean? And they pull coverage 2 weeks before there's a fire. Like, maybe it's one and the same. Maybe it's like, well, if these people are unwise enough to pull the funding in the first place, we're gonna let the shit burn, absolve ourselves of the insurance claims that we pulled 2 weeks prior, and, you know, we get to keep all that money. We don't have to pay a dime. You know, let FEMA, which doesn't exist anymore, cover it. It's just like, is it divine retribution? Is the insurance company manifesting a logical reason as to why people would, you know, abstain from proper forest management, and then when the fire actually occurs years down the line, maybe, like, people aren't held accountable for this? It's like, where is the wisdom? Is it just a straight test of wisdom? And, like, throwing back to the mystical, it's like the bubonic plague. What the fuck, what went on there? Like, I don't necessarily buy the fact that it was just because of the round boils that this plague was called the bubonic plague. I'm thinking about Bubo the owl. You know, I know from the Ray Harryhausen movie, The Mechanical Owl, that Athena gives to Perseus, and they did it dirty in the reboot. And I don't understand why, because that was like one of the coolest characters I thought growing up. Look at this mechanical bird that could fly. That's like, you know, that's one of the coolest things like you could get. And like a goddess gave it to him, and it's like telling him where to go. You know, it's got jewels for eyes and shit like that. Like, that's dope. But, you know, you think about bubonic, like, why would you name a plague after wisdom? Did people in the Dark Ages have too much wisdom? Did they not have enough wisdom? Yeah, I mean, it's well known that it affected, like, it affected a lot of people. And people claim it was the mini ice age, and people say it was this, and now they're talking about doing brightening the clouds for their for their climate control bullshit. And it's just like, well, B, what the fuck's going on here? You know what I mean? Are we at the mercy of some high wizards of balance, or what? I've seen enough weird things to know that things work on multiple levels. It's just the way it is. It's like, yeah, you can explain it away by following the money, but there's other quirks that, like, it comes to the point where it ain't just about the money. There's more things going on in this world than just the dough. You can't discount it. Like, there's more going on than just the money here. Especially when you're talking about things as serious as, like, full-blown nuclear war and all this. It's just more than the one thing. Gotta be. And whether that's it can certainly be dismissed as just a rationale, like the rationalization of a madman, perhaps. Like maybe even Manson-esque, though I'm leery to even bring him up in any kind of conversation. And speaking of books, this is the little book shack here. I got some decent books in here once in a while, nothing like crazy. Oathbringers and stuff like that. Gretchen McCall, One Act, whatever. Nothing. I still have a book myself I have to finish. I don't know what the fuck this means, but there's a children's bicycle specialized in a black umbrella that looks like a tattered red bag. What does that mean? Is that an omen? Packs of smokes. What happened here? Right by this little waterfall. So what is the significance here? A black umbrella and a black bicycle, children's bicycle. Strange. Just left right here in the pathway. That'll be for the botanical people to clean up tomorrow, one might suppose. There's all in the back of these bushes, you'll see the little encampments of these people of various vagrancies, one might say. Drug paraphernalia and whatnot. Not exactly things you want to go rooting around in at nighttime. Not exactly thankful work. But I think most of the kids around here know better than to go playing in the weird spots. Like, you'll see people up here right across from this high school. This is generally clean on that hill, but the one over by the other high school down the road a ways is it's quite nasty. It's a steeper hill. There's a lot more blinds, and then when the foliage comes in the spring, like full bloom, it gets overgrown and you can't really see anything in there. And like I said, vagrants Vagrants of varying degrees go up that way. Quite dark in the shot. That's okay. Varying degrees. Anyways, back to Master and Margarita. Great book. If you haven't read it, definitely recommend it. You know, criticism of censorship too. You know, in a roundabout way. I don't know if it's like a direct critique of censorship, but it definitely is a critique of Russian society at that time, for sure, and a critique of other things too, of pertaining to the mystical and how, you know, the mystical is used in a roundabout way to explain how society might be modulated over time, or in, you know, a quick, specific way. The devil comes for like a weekend and fucks up Moscow, and then he books out, you know what I mean? Just as soon as he was there, he was gone. Here in a flash, gone in an instant. Here in an instant, gone in a flash. Just interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Oh, yeah, the lady with the trip, she wanted a picture with me because she was talking with her daughter who was like also with the book. And I had like the black fingerless gloves and the white shirt. You know, I felt cool. But, well, I didn't feel that cool. But it was nice to recognize, or at least know there was another fan of the book out there, because you can go, you know, if you're just talking to non-literary people or people who aren't fans of literature, you could talk to a lot of people who've never heard of the goddamn book. You know what I mean? People are all tied up in there, whatever it is, reality TV, you know, even contemporary books. They're tied up in philosophy, they're tied up here, they're tied up there. Very niche thing, you know. Even online, it's not like, you know, it's got like a huge following in Russia, but over here not so much. Whatever. Hard to explain. Anyways, it's good enough explanation, I guess, in general synopsis for that book. On Blues Waters will probably be the next one. I just gotta finish it up. Another great book, Wolf, and that's part of the series, the Book of the Long Sun, or the Short Sun, something like that. I think there's 3 books, and I think he's got another one out more recently too. Also beautiful books. Anyways, bye.